3, 2, 1.
I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I can help myself.
What are you waiting for? Come on! Come on! What are you waiting for? Come on! Come on!
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
to the incredible misses,
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
and take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin.
For God's sake, come in!
Hello and welcome to The Mark of Caine, our ongoing stagger through the film career of Michael Caine, watching every single movie, regardless of the consequences, and they have been severe at times, let me tell you. My name is Michael Foley, and joining me as always is Stephen Black. We've washed up at the end of the 70s, Stephen. There were times when I did not think we were going to make it.
Sorry, I'm still caught up in your pronunciation of the consequences, like you're some sort of newsie from the 1930s.
May God have mercy on us all.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we're essentially, like I said, go back to original Shawshank Redemption metaphor, analogy, what have you. Is that except with this, it's not so much a case of that we're getting out of the shit-stained tunnel and into freedom. We're just exiting out of the shit-stained tunnel, just finding we're in another annex that leads to an even longer shit-stained tunnel.
It's kind of like the director's cut of Shawshank, where Andy Dufresne gets lost down the shit tunnel. He takes a wrong turn to the left and goes, "Oh, I gotta reverse back out of this again." Yeah,
it's like celebrating the end to your diarrhea by going out for a feed of Guinness, you know.
A fine, good feed of Guinness and a good runny Indian after. Ooh, that's a good mental image to get into this. Well, what a way to go! What a way to leave the 70s. So we've got the last of what I would
say. It's like a runny Indian.
A runny Indian. Lots of sauce. Lots of sauce. Very saucy. Very saucy. Nothing crispy here. Way to go. As I say, what a way to go. We're getting out. I see these films as like Caine's holy trinity of crap. Absolute 70s stinkers. So we've had The Swarm, and the last time out we had Ashanti, and now he has unbelievably
with California Sweet in there. So that ruins your analogy.
Not really. No, there's a holy trinity of stinkers.
This is like the holy goat. Let's say, due to that misprint in the early edition of the Old Testament.
Yeah, exactly.
That we don't talk about, the secret.
Yes,
the secret fourth member of the Trinity,
the California Suite,
like the George Martin of the Holy Trinity.
Indeed.
Or Billy Preston.
That's 5, isn't it? We're getting confused now with our numbers. I don't know. How many were in the Beatles? The Fab 3, the good 3. So we've had no. My Holy Trinity stands up. We've had The Swarm and Ashanti, and now today we have Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, but
right?
you if you were saying that, you'd say this is a run. You said you saw this as a run. It's not a run if you have. It's a stumble if it's fucking anything.
Well, it's definitely a stumble.
But you've got California Sweet in there. It's just runes. That's not right. Like, you're ignoring the facts.
Ruining my fun.
I thought this whole thing was about ruining our fun.
Well, it is definitely ruining our fun, but you're very, very good at ruining my fun. No, there's no fun here. Nope. Leave fun at the doorway. Beyond the Poseidon, unbelievably, inexplicably, inconsequentially.
Sure.
I'm just, I don't know, I feel like I'm having a stroke. Inexplicably, he's reunited with Irwin Allen, the director producer of The Swarm. Now, Irwin Allen, of course, made the original Poseidon Adventure, so that's kind of okay if I can see that. But isn't it kind of beyond belief that he would go back again? he would go back again to Irwin Allen and say, "Yeah, this is going to be fine."
Yeah, I don't know. It's really kind of the trademark of an abusive relationship, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is a trademark of an abusive relationship. Now, I do have a theory why he did it. I do have a theory, which we might get into in a little while.
Is it money?
Partly, and I'd say just doing a favor for a mate. But like, good God,
Did you not just help him move house or something, or get that piano up the stairs or whatever it is that you kind of do to mates out. You don't, go back to the guy who basically almost ruined your career. I wouldn't say almost ruined you, but basically, put this big stigma in your career.
Yeah,
with the Swarm.
Exactly. All you got to do is collect his mail when he's on holidays. You don't have to go and make another.
Bring him to the airport.
Bring him to the airport, collect his mail. Do you know it would be a nice thing to do? Maybe put some milk in the fridge the day before he comes back from his holidays. That's a nice thing to do.
I guess. Has somebody done that? Has somebody done that for you?
No, but
you've no real friends though.
No, I don't. No, my caliber of friend is quite low. But look, here we are, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. So let's get into this. So strap on your scuba gear, everybody. Run yourself a nice cold bath and jump in fully clothed to replicate precisely the experience of watching this movie. This is Caine, who actually learned to scuba specifically for this role, half drowning in another absolute stinkhole of a film. This is Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
At midnight on New Year's Eve, the SS Poseidon, caught in a violent Mediterranean storm, is struck by a 90-foot tidal wave and capsized. On the morning of the following day, a salvage crew and a special rescue squad board the doomed ship.
The fire must have been started by the last explosion. More could come any time. I'm telling you, it's a floating time bomb.
They discover that she holds 3 secrets. A $1 billion treasure, a deadly cargo of plutonium, and 11 trapped survivors.
That porthole's gonna go at any moment. Gotta find another way out of here. And right now.
Stephen, this is awful, but at least it's just boring awful. Like, it's not like grimly offensive awful like Ashanti. I kind of wish it was funny awful like The Swarm, but at least I'm not coming away feeling terrible, like a terrible person.
Yeah, it's just boring. But I mean, I guess I'm not a big fan of disaster movies anyway. But I mean, one would say that the main criteria for a disaster movie is that it needs to have spectacle, and that spectacle needs to be entertaining. This has neither of those things. No. This movie has a budget of $10 million, which I'd imagine even in 1979 is an awful lot of money. Yes, none of it is appearing on the screen. I'm sure most of it went into cake for Teddy Savalas and fucking Mick Caine in the green room. Because you see none of it. I mean, it's like, it is, do you know what? It's like 2.5 hours of the Crystal Maze.
Yeah, really. That occurred
with
to me as well.
With a set that has, with the same production values. They just go from room to room and they have to figure a way out of that room, or they do a bit of a sit down and there's an attempt at character development. And
yeah,
but it's very, very long. And there's really a lot of scenes of them walking and climbing.
Yeah.
And again, occasionally the camera will shake and they'll move from one side to the other, kind of early Star Trek, The Next Generation advice before they were able to afford better better special effects. No real peril at all. I think one of the most, I say tense, but it's not really tense scenes in the movie is when they have to jump over what is clearly a 3-foot gap, but what they maintain is at least 7 or 10
6 or 7 feet. It's got to be 6 or 7 feet. Little Sally Field. Give it your best college try. Have a good run up and jump across.
Sally Field, the tiny Tim of fucking 70s and 80s. Acting, I swear to God, no time for it all. I'm sure she's a lovely person.
Sally Field.
I've not enjoyed a single movie that she's a star in.
She won an Oscar in the film before this. Can you believe that?
What was it?
It was for a movie called Norma Ray. She won Best Actress.
She was an activist, wasn't she, Norma Ray?
I think so. I'm not fully aware.
It was some kind of mining thing, or am I making that up? Yeah, sure,
I'm not sure. I haven't seen the film, to be brutally honest with you, but it's just, she won it. She was coming into this as a, well, I don't know if she's coming in as an Oscar winner, but it was certainly the film she did before this particular one. But yeah, anyway, yeah, you were talking about the effects and the
it just looks cheap. as chips.
It looks
There's
cheap.
no scope. I like if you're trying to in any way create any sort of tension, you can't just have this really closed in shot of a room. I mean, you're supposed to believe that this is an upside down, like luxury liner, that a huge ship, and then everything looks so small. They might as well be in a fucking submarine.
Yeah. So look, maybe I should just jump into the plot here and just get that horror out of the way. I mean, the original, for people who haven't seen The Poseidon Adventure in 1972, like that basically luxury liner capsizes, bunch of people try to escape. Those who do are helicoptered away. So Beyond the Poseidon Adventure kicks off on New Year's Day, presumably the day after or something like that. And Caine's character, Mike Turner, a tugboat captain, comes across the wreckage of the Poseidon. Himself and his crew, 125-year-old Karl Malden and little Sally Field, who Caine's character has never met before, like until she started breaking all his crockery while trying to make a cup of coffee in the hold of his tugboat or whatever. They head into the wreck. So they pick up a few passengers. So you got Peter Boyle plays the uptight New Jersey guy protecting his daughter from like sexy Iowa farmer Mark Harmon.
Who I initially referred to as Irish Waxwork Museum Tom Cruise.
Yes. Irish Waxwork Museum Tom Cruise, exactly. Kind of like him, but not at all looking like him, really, at all. Shirley Jones is the mother from the Partridge Family, plays the ship's nurse. Jack Warden, who I remember from Crazy Like a Fox. And he's in lots of other good stuff, but he plays a blind dude whose wife won't make it, by the way. There's drunk Slim Pickens. He doesn't make it either. Caine had already met Telly Savalas, who's the bad guy. They split up and they go their separate ways in the boat looking for stuff. It's clear Savalas is evil. He's trying to salvage...
Because he's Telly Savalas.
Because he's Telly Savalas, and he's dressed in white with a black polo neck, which is immediately... He's purporting to be a medical guy. He looks no more now a medical guy than, Idi Amin would look like a medical guy. So he goes off. He's trying to salvage plutonium, of all things. Caine finds these riches that he was looking for. There's a lot of... Actually, you were mentioning there about the rocking and rolling back. That's actually... Apparently, Irwin Allen takes the credit for this. It's called the Irwin Allen Rock and Roll. So, while they shake the camera, everybody moves around. As you say, I would have seen it in Star Trek years ago, but apparently it's been credited to Irwin Allen as a thing. Various people die. The dialogue is wetter than the set. Caine eventually scuba dives to safety. 125-year-old Karl Malden does not make it. They all get away, whoever survives the passengers, and Telly Savalas and the lads get blown up. It's just as terrible, I think, as the reputation of the movie suggests. There's nothing to recommend here whatsoever. But you know what? We'll drag an old conversation over it anyway for what it's worth. What did you make of Our Man in It?
I have to be forthcoming here and admit something. I'm trying to find different ways to watch these movies that would give it an edge or make me feel anything. So I watched this in dubbed Italian with English subtitles.
Right.
So I was watching that through the filter of it. He seemed to give the usual kind of standard. I'm collecting a check. I'm kind of interested because, as you say, helping out a mate. Obviously, he would have seen, all right, I'm acting with Telly Savalas and with Sally Field and with the great Karl Malden. So I'd imagine with his usual affinities for or his usual love of 1940s, 1950s cinema that he would have relished that. So he's absolutely fine in this. It's a terrible movie. It's just no effort is made. They come like the Red Cross must have made the most cursory pass through of this ship, like because there's like a cast of thousands in the fucking thing.
They missed a load of lads the first time.
They missed a load of lads just walking around, quite casually walking just around the place. Not really that panicked about the fact that they're in a ship that is very, very, very slowly sinking.
One of the funniest bits, actually, in terms of just people walking about, was they find a large group of people locked in a steam room, and so they come out and it's like, see, steam, and all the eyeliner is all smudgy and it's sweaty, and you're kind of, immediately you're kind of thinking, well, they would have died in there if the steam was on, and then immediately there's a piece of dialogue going, we were firing until a pipe burst or something like. Stop explaining and justifying stuff. You should, it's like you just walk out of the steam room.
Yeah, it's the little things. Fucking Caine. Caine's crew. It's not their original intent was to bring whatever cargo they had from A to B. It gets lost in a storm. They come across the wreck of the Poseidon, and they go, "This is an opportunity for salvage." And he starts off with this big cynical guy. I'm going to get my money back here, but they go to enter the ship with nothing. They don't bring a bag, a satchel, a sack, nothing. No rope. No, they literally, it's just like you're going to just leave it. You'd leave the house to go for a walk with more belongings on you than they do going into the ship to salvage.
It's like they have gone for a hill walk, in December wearing a pair of flip-flops. They're just, we're here. Should we dive into this?
But it's indicative of just the half-arsed fucking approach to this movie is that Irwin Allen probably saw, as a producer, we got our money for it. It's grand. I've made, don't really have to make, but it already has the cachet of its name of the original movie. We're bound to make a packet out of this at the start, but no effort was made in any way to make this entertaining. Yeah. It was just do the absolute bare minimum. Hopefully we can package it and sell it overseas. Clearly didn't make it like it was a huge turkey. It made only like not even $2 million. It didn't even make his, just absolutely bombed.
It made I think it was 20% of its outlay or something. It's just disaster stuff. Caine, so he's teed up in the script and in the thing as this sort of veteran, cynical, grizzled tugboat captain who's down on his luck. He needs cash so bad, but he's dressed like a lad who has just walked out of a 1970s disco after 17 hours. Like he's wearing a red polyester shirt and slacks. Do
you know what he looked like? He looked like the grown-up Charlie Bucket from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, who'd maybe just been turned down for a small business loan.
Yeah. Not grizzled. At least Karl Malden had a little woolly hat on, and he looked like a lad who might have been to sea once.
Karl Malden did with the grim spectre of death hovering over him as soon as he's on screen. Just I think after 20 minutes he starts coughing and he can't stand up no more.
He can't. And we never find out exactly what's wrong with him. But Caine, there's a fantastic. I mean, again, you talk about the little things, so there's a fantastic conversation. So Karl Malden at times just sits down and he's like he's got a pain in his side, and he's like, Caine is talking. He's like, I've talked to the doctor. I've talked to your doctor. And Malden goes, what's the name of the doctor? And the man gives whatever the name of the doctor is. And then you realise very quickly that the Hippocratic Oath means feck all here. Like Caine has got on the call, asked the doctor, what's wrong with my friend? Oh, he's got whatever. All right, thanks for that, chap. And off we go. Like patient confidentiality.
But that's clearly written on the day. Clearly written on the day.
To just explain something away, yeah.
Explain something. We don't actually have enough explanation of what's. Maybe it's too subtle that he has to hold his side and kind of sit down every 10 minutes. Maybe that's too subtle. That's something we need now to make sure that the audience are in no doubt that he's dying.
It was more likely actually that Caine would have had to sit down every 2 minutes from a stitch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was an awful lot of walking in this anyway, so at least he got a little bit of exercise out of it.
And a lot of swimming. Jesus, he did more swimming in this. Sports Caine, he's on the money here, to be fair to him, the scuba and all the rest of it. But for me, the first 5 minutes, I had to say, the first 5 minutes of the movie in Caine's company, it felt like getting plunged back into the Swarm. Like he's roaring at Sally Field. He's roaring at Karl Malden. The next thing, a helicopter appears overhead. And I'm like going, oh no, the fucking bees are back.
Bees would have been a welcome distraction, I think. They might have moved a little bit faster.
Beyond the Swarm Adventure, I don't know, maybe he should have brought the two of them together. He doesn't strike me as having done an awful lot of acting in this, Caine. It's an awful lot of exposition stuff. He's kind of explaining why we're going down through this, why we're going down through this hole, why we're going up this ladder. There's no emotional depth here. There's nothing, there's no characterization. Even the attempt.
There's no characterization. It's literally the dialogue provides the characterization. Yeah. He has to talk to somebody. They will then tell something about themselves that explains who they are, what they are, and that's it. It is not subtle. Sally Field, his character is given far too much screen time. It's kind of gutsy, like down on her luck gal who's just looking for a break.
Again, inexplicably falls for Michael Caine.
Yeah, this whole will they, won't they? It's not will they, won't they? It's please don't they? It's just
it really is.
You really don't care one way or the other about their relationship.
It's actually a little bit creepy, I found, because about a third of the way through it, Sally Field and Caine's trying to kick open a vent or something, and she just starts crying, which is okay, fine. It's a stressful situation, but she gets hysterical. Okay, and at the start it's kind of funny watching it, and then it kind of gets a bit annoying, and then suddenly she falls for Caine inside of the next 10 seconds, which is just weird. And that's kind of the movie for me. It was a movie in a nutshell. And then it's creepy after that because she asks one of the characters, do you think we have a shot if this is all this kind of stuff? And you're going, this is like, what the fuck? Like, so she's almost perving after Caine, which I mean, in of itself is just bizarre.
But nobody acts as if they're actually in fatal circumstances. I mean, Peter Boyle's whole shtick is that he's terrified that Mark Harmon wants to have relations with his daughter. You kind of go, maybe not the time to prioritize this. Again, all of you are in a ship that's upside down, allegedly, and that's about to go under at any stage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from the Caine point of view, I mean, as I say, meant to be a grizzled tugboat guy, but he's dressed like he's walked out of a nightclub. He doesn't look at all tough, to be honest with you. He doesn't. He shouts. It's the usual kind of shout. Going back to why he did the movie. Here's my theory. Right, there was a bunch of other people were scoped out about this. Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne were all offered the role that Caine took in the end. They all read the script and they all said no. So, I'm thinking it's a movie to help out a mate. I mean, according to Caine himself, he was good. Was good buddies with Irwin Allen. They would have had lunch most every Thursday in Chasen's restaurant in Hollywood, which I think is a famous kind of hangout, kind of star spotter kind of place. He told Film Comment magazine in 1980, I made it for a friend of mine. I liked the idea of it. I had never been in a big Hollywood special effects picture before, and I thought the experience would be interesting. Trying to make something of the rather cardboard characters in those movies is quite difficult. Also, I wanted pictures in America. I was just moving there. I needed to start making a living. That was a very important consideration. So yeah, doing it for a mate, doing it for the chick. That seems to be it. I
completely slipped his mind that he was in the Swarm a couple of years previously to that, another Hollywood.
Apparently so. And I mean, the thing is, the money. Like again, we've had this discussion before. It's not like he's on Skid Row. There's a very good little piece from a Siskel and Ebert episode online, actually reviewing the Poseidon Adventure when it came out in 1979, and they're fairly down on it. But Gene Siskel, kind of a very, very glib kind of reference to it, kind of says the only way I could be entertained watching the movie is to sit in the theater saying, "Hey, there's Michael Caine getting paid $500,000 to jump across a bridge." And you're like, yeah, that's about right, actually. That's about right. There's really very little to be said. I mean, he did read the script. He claims he read the script. He just thought that the special effects would be better. But the special effects were do you remember the very, very first scene?
But there's rear projection the whole fucking time when they're in the tugboat and it looks dodgy as hell. Even the final shot of the two of them canoodling in the Love Boat, it just looks cheap and miserable. You think of all the I loathe Titanic with every fiber of my being, but you can see the money in the screen in terms of practical effects as well as CGI in it, and this just. Get back to it. It just looks so cheap and just so miserly in its display as a spectacle. It just kind of again fucking entertain me. The characterization is terrible. Dialogue is awful, but at least when things blow up, it looks good, or there's some sort of physical feat other than a little bit of scuba-diving in what's clearly a swimming pool.
Yeah,
I learned just compare it to the you look at the more modern day movies like fucking disaster movies. Look at something like Greenland with Gerard Butler. But it's actually a good disaster movie. Maybe take something like I don't know, fucking San Andreas with The Rock. The amount of work that he puts into it, it's a dreadful movie. But you can see the money up on the screen. You can see this, in terms of The Rock, whatever his acting style, clearly puts in the physical hard yards and making sure that he's able to do as much as possible on the screen. I think Caine looks like he'd hardly be able to do a sit up to fucking open a bag of crisps,
Which is, here's the irony of it. He's not in great shape, but yet he does the scuba. He does a lot of swimming in this. So he's more physical in this than I think I've ever seen him in any movie.
Yeah, it's all underwater though, so the water's doing an awful lot at the air tank. There's doing an awful lot of the hard work there from
He's still got to do it. He makes a point in one of his books. By the way, the Caine book that I'm in at the minute is Blowing the Bloody Doors Off. And what I normally do is
after Runny Curry.
after exactly, yeah. I kind of go through the book to see if there are any reference to these movies as you go along. And what I'm kind of thinking, well, I'll eventually end up reading the book because you'll have gone through all these things. There's some amazing anecdotes in that thing. I mean, I know my anecdotes tire you sometimes, but there are some unbelievable stuff. There's a thing about Caine and the casting couch in that book that I have to come back to sometime. It's just unreal. But he talks in it about doing the scuba, and he says, okay, he didn't learn to swim until he was like 12. And the last time that he would have worn any of the gear, even vaguely like this, would have been when he was being evacuated from London during the war. So the gas mask. But he remembers the gas mask was faulty. So they asked the kids to put the gas mask on and run around to see that they work. Put the gas mask on anyway. Caine fainted after a couple of minutes because the gas mask was faulty. I was like, well, that's definitely a portent of things to come in terms of sports Caine, you know?
Yeah, we would have welcomed a couple of minutes of sweet oblivion while watching this.
The original Irwin Allen idea for this, by the way, if you're interested, right? He wanted to do
barely.
He wanted to do a sequel. Get interested. He wanted to do a sequel of this years before because it was such a huge hit, but it didn't happen. But his plan originally was that the survivors of Poseidon would be rescued and taken by helicopter and land in Italy.
Helicopter.
And then be placed on a train which would go through a tunnel in the Alps, and the tunnel would collapse, and everybody would be trapped under the mountain. And here's another.
He wanted the John McClane them.
He wanted. Would you believe that actually rocked up in a movie since? Sylvester Stallone made a film. Did you ever see this called Daylight?
I did.
Yeah, Daylight. So I think it's a tunnel in Manhattan or something like they're
Yeah, it's not a train though. It's just
but
it's transport.
It's the idea of getting trapped. Yeah, trapped in a tunnel though, and whatever. But it's the only Irwin Allen film that was not nominated for an Oscar. Can you believe that?
I again have issues believing the fact that the Swarm was nominated for an Oscar. But here we are,
Best costume design, my friend. Anything you want to say about the supporting cast? Anybody?
Slim Pickens playing Barry Humphries, Les Patterson, Jack Warden playing Phil Coulter, as far as I can make out.
Yeah, blind Phil Coulter.
And Telly Savalas,
Telly Savalas.
Yeah, Telly Savalas. No. And
he's the same in every movie, isn't he? The same
in everything.
I'm a good guy.
Yeah. No, I've said all I want to say about this, to be honest.
Yeah. Veronica Hamill from Hill Street Blues is in it. She gets killed off very early. Peter Boyle just shouts. I mean, it's a bit disconcerting when you have Caine and Boyle on screen, both shouting at the one time. And roaring at each other, like genuinely just.
Peter Boyle's wavy hair just isn't waving bye-bye.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's very little really to be said about this. It's just so god awful. Yeah, again though, it kind of strikes me that Irwin Allen had no idea. He could not get his head around why Star Wars was successful around this time. For example, he couldn't get his head around why Star Wars was a success. And I look at him and I can thinking, okay, Caine is friends with this guy. Again, it just speaks to this idea that Caine has either the directors have no interest in him, or he has no sense of what he could be doing.
Oh, he is not a truffle hound when it comes to finding the sweet nuggets of good scripts. No, absolutely no. I mean,
he's missed. Through this decade, he has missed all the trend-setting possibilities for. Do you know what I'm talking about? Getting into the kind of the Scorsese, Coppola kind of side of De Palma. Well, De Palma will come now shortly, but that bit at the end of the early 70s, and then even when he decides he wants to do a blockbuster, he does a blockbuster that's going out of fashion. That's just a dead. He's never done a sci-fi movie, actually, has he?
He's done. Well, it depends on your interpretation of science fiction. He's done Nolan. Yeah. So he's done Interstellar and he's done Inception.
Yeah.
And I guess more recently Tenet. His ultimate sit-down Caine role.
It's the ultimate sit-down. Yeah. There's really nothing to be said. This is so truly, truly dreadful. Marks for Caine. I'm going to give him 1 because I think it's not as bad as Ashanti. I can't give it.
It's not as bad as Ashanti. He's at least appears to be awake for most of it. So 1 is fine.
Just about. So that is 70s Caine. My God, 22 films. We gave 2 zeros, 2 1s, and a 10.
Yep, fair.
Across those 22 movies. Yeah. So at this point, let us just divert briefly before we move into the 80s and look back at 70s Caine.
Disco. Women. Women's rights. Roller skates. Michael Caine missed all these things because he was too busy moving to the States and not earning a living because he was paying tax. All right.
Okay. He's been nominated for an Oscar. He's moved to LA. He's made at least 5 of the worst films I've ever seen in this decade, and he's showing absolutely no signs of stopping at the end of this decade. Will we just run through a few categories? Can I throw a few at you? Let's see what you say.
Do, and you'll have to remind me what movies we're looking at because I have not looked before this. I have not done my homework.
Oh, good. That's good to hear. Okay. Best 70s Caine movie.
Jesus
Get Carter
Christ.
Get Carter for
Get
me.
Carter, 100%, yeah. 100% Get Carter, yeah.
I know, the worst Caine movie, and what a cavalcade of whimsy there is to pick from. I can't split Ashanti and Peeper myself, but Peeper being his kind of noir, private eye detective, cockney.
Yeah, you see, because I hated Harold and Maude, or whatever the fuck. Harold and I'm going to just call it Harold and Maude bore me to death. One of the worst.
Was the Inco?
Yeah, Harold, the
Harry and
James
Walter
Caan,
go to New York?
Yeah. I found that offensively bad, but then Caine is very good in it, so I can't include that. Z and Co. And Ashanti for me.
Z and Co. and
Top
Ashanti,
two.
yeah. It's very hard to split these.
Yeah, they're just objectively terrible films.
The Swarm is just, it's so
blandly bad, and it's famous for being bad, and so big fucking whoop. Anybody watching that has not watched the rest of these. Would be I would say 99% of people who've seen the Swarm and think it's this is hilarious, one of the worst things I've ever seen, have not actually put in the hard yards. They have not they've not been in the Valley of Dang Nang or whatever, watching Charlie shoot flares over while you hold your best friend's guts in a foxhole or whatever it is. They've not watched, miles of intestine in the shape of Liz Taylor playing fucking ping pong. They're not trying to fucking reattach a Peeper to their best friends. I don't know. I'm running out of steam here in this. I'll say eventually they're terrible.
You haven't been there, man. You haven't lived it, man.
You have not.
A couple of bits. Best and worst sports Caine. I get your motor running. I think the scuba diving was his best sports Caine moment in
probably prolonged period of activity. I would say worst sports or activity Caine is the camel scene in Ashanti.
That is terrible. That's terrible. I actually had walking on the rocks in Zian Code. Remember when he was walking on the rocks and he couldn't take 2 steps before he slipped? He had to get Susanna York to hold.
He looked like he needed a Sherpa to bring him oxygen. Yeah, that was pretty bad. All right.
Walking on the beach, he couldn't even walk. Best worst on-screen chemistry. Now we have spoken about this, that through the decade he's encounters.
I'll answer this straight away. Best chemistry is with him and Sean Connery in The Man Who Would Be King.
Yeah.
And worst chemistry, Jesus.
I would say Sybil Shepherd and Silver Bears. It's particularly pronounced bad. You can see the screen is practically frosting up when they're on there together, right?
Yeah. Susanna York and Zian Code.
Susanna York is terrible. There's a lot of very bad ones.
Glenda Jackson in fucking The Romantic English Woman. Pretty bad.
Oh, it was meant to be bad.
Him with Sally Field in this.
Well, Sally Field actually struck me. If Burt Reynolds had done this, because Sally Field basically plays her Smokey and the Bandit character in Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, in that she talks very quickly and it's kind of endearing, stroke irritating, but it's kind of quirky and cute. And like, if Burt Reynolds had been, it would have been a very different film. It would have been Smoking the Bandit Goes Underwater, I think, if he had done it. Unexpectedly good 70s Caine movie. Anyone come at you and go, oh, that was actually better than I expected. Will be Conspiracy for me, anyway.
A portion of it will be Conspiracy, but overall, again, I'm hoping the 80s will throw up a couple of nuggets ago, but not so much here.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's an apartheid film with Sidney Poitier. As you say, it starts off surprisingly well and then kind of just dies off towards the end, but unexpectedly good. Unexpectedly bad, that you kind of thought, this might be all right, but it actually turned out to be fairly pants.
Jesus. I had low expectations for everything.
Yeah, it's really we've been schooled at this stage in that.
Yeah, Yeah, Marseille contract. I thought that maybe that might be at least enjoyable, but it was dreadful.
Well, you see, I would put the Marseille. I like if I had Desert Island Caine, as in had to take one movie from the 70s, I would take either the Marseille contract or the Swarm, because
I would definitely take the Marseille contract because he's a little bit more portly. That's so there'd be more to carve off once it's eventually given into cannibalism.
Well, I'd be kind of saying more that you would watch it on the Desert Island rather than eat Caine.
All right, I'm not interested in doing that.
Okay, fair enough. Best double act, I think, is Connery by a mile.
Yes.
He's done a couple of set pieces between Maggie Smith and Laurence Olivier and others. This is one I think that's very, very relevant. I think this is one that'll spark a car. The moment while watching Caine's 70s output where you thought, oh, no more. For me,
what was the first movie we watched in the 70s?
Too Late to Hero. Too Late to Hero was the very first one, actually.
Oh, yeah, that was it. Yeah, Too Late to Hero. That was it.
It's Caine sweating in the jungle. Anytime Usnaf came on screen in Ashanti, that was for me. I was like, I just can't. I cannot. I can't take this. But
all of Harold and Walter is just after the opening sequence. I thought, okay, this is something, and then when I realized, oh God, no, these two idiots are going to be on screen for most of the movies. No,
it's diabolical.
Yeah.
And to end on a high, your favorite bit from the Swarm.
Why is this particularly a thing? You know, I wasn't a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I know. It's good for me to see you have to try and pick something. It's a high for me. My favorite was when the bee looks at the family at the picnic before swarming them and.
When I realized that they were actually going to use the bees now. Bee sting. Their bee has a sting that makes you hallucinate a giant bee. That was it. That was kind of good. I then realized that was a motif that they were going to use throughout the movie. It wasn't just a one-off kind of fever dream. Yeah. It was, no, this is intentional and they're going to use it again.
Yeah. Go watch The Swarm. It will make you feel bad, but better too. It will. I think we're going to leave polyester disco Caine there, will we, in the 70s? Move into the 80s?
Yeah. More
leather jackets, I'd imagine. More open tops, you know, with the button undone on the top of the shirt. I say more open top shirt Caine.
More denim.
Maybe a moccasin. More cards, you know, more of those kind of cardy jackets. I'm thinking educating Rita there. Anyway, let us start with a good stride into the 80s, right? This is a fairly dramatic pivot now from basically anything he's done before. So in 1980, he took a role as a transvestite killer in Brian De Palma's Drenched.
Schindler's List.
Dressed to Kill.
I love my wife, but it isn't worth jeopardizing my marriage.
Have you seen it?
No.
Are you intrigued?
Yes.
It's described as an erotic slasher thriller.
Is described as being less than 90 minutes long?
No.
Then I'm less interested.
You're less excited now. It sounds wild. Big hit. It was actually a very big hit for him. I've never seen this film.
I can only hope that the element of transvesticism in this is aged well, because otherwise it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
I really hope it hasn't. And I do, to be fair, if it's an erotic slasher thriller, I hope Caine's involvement is confined to either the slasher or thriller bit.
Do you know what I actually would do? I put fucking cash money in this now. I will say that undoubtedly he will probably end up having the best screen chemistry he's ever had as a transvestite. It's just the way things are going. It's sod's law.
It's how this thing is rolling. It's true. It's himself. I think Angie Dickinson is in it. Anyway, this is all to be discovered. Yes. We will leave it there. I think we have done enough. Goodbye, 70s Caine. Hello, 80s Caine.
Yes, and as usual, you can hit us up on Twitter at MarketCaine2. Like and subscribe where you pod your podcast. I will talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Mark of Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mallow News and at Mark of Caine2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Mark of Caine is a Mallow News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.